And here we are. This is our second session of One is a Whole Number. And I welcome you. If you don't know me, my name is Reverend Alicia Leslie from Spirit of Unity Church. My goal is to try to help others live happier, healthier lives by living in alignment with spiritual principle. It's really quite simple. And I hope you enjoy today's video. If you do, you can like, you can share, you can go to Alicia Leslie, Mundane Mystic, and see all of the various series I have. I've been doing this for a number of years, and so I've got a lot of fun stuff to look at. A lot of it's very helpful for your life. So there's also another series going on right now called Embracing Change. But I just had this call to do something about being successfully single. Maybe it's come to my mind a lot more since the pandemic and so many people are more alone. But just because you're alone doesn't mean you have to be lonely. That's why today we're talking about liberation from loneliness, which also happens to be the title of a book about being liberated from loneliness. Last night we talked a little bit about my right to do this. How did I have? Well, I got the education and the experience. Got education through seminary when we studied relationships and counseling and those kind of things, and then I got a lot in my own life. So, having been single, or I like to call it solo, for the past 30 some odd years, and being alive and happy, I think I got it down. That doesn't mean you have to look at a future of being alone and lonely for who knows how long. It just means that you can have a great life whether you are single or coupled. So let's take a look tonight at liberation from loneliness. Do a little analysis of singlehood. We talked about this last night, but it never hurts to review. And I wondered, I was hoping that your experiment with your potential for happiness worked out well. And if you wish, whenever you see this, to jot your notes down in the comment section, that would be great. I'd like to know how it worked. And you know, when you put those little the little comments, thumbs up, whatever, it really makes me feel more connected. And I started doing this on a regular basis, like almost every day, when March 18th, 2020, when the lockdown started. So I've been doing this for a long time. And and because of that, because I had someone to reach out to, and that's why I encourage you, give me a comment, let me know, anything, wave, I can't see very often when you are watching. I can't tell if anybody's watching or not. But when I'm done, I can look at the comments. So that helps me not feel lonely. And I hope that when you watch the videos, if you're at all lonely, it helps you not to feel lonely. And if you pay attention to what you're going to learn in the next several episodes, you are going to learn how to handle real or perceived loneliness. And most loneliness is actually perceived, not real. How do you like that? So let's look at lies about singlehood. You cannot be happy until you're in a relationship. That's a lie I believed for many, many years. You will be lonely. That's another lie I believed for many years, and that I actually held as a truth, and I made it a self-fulfilling prophecy. You cannot manage successfully financially. You cannot manage financially. Sorry about that. You cannot manage financially as a single, which you can not only manage, you can prosper. That your relationships are only imitation, or you will take an imitation relationship rather than be lonely, which is a huge mistake. And I know that one because I've done that one too. Promiscuity is fun. False intimacy, in my opinion, is vile serial dating, and I cannot understand my own writing. I must. Well, false intimacy is it's just having having multiple partners, and promiscuity. Why? Because it doesn't have depth. It may fill in a blank on a lonely night, but ultimately it's not going to make you happy. There's also the belief that if you're not married, you're less than, and there is something wrong with you. Now, we get little support. If you watch movies, listen to music and stuff like that, observe your friends, it's like people feel sorry for us because we're single, and they really don't need to. And so don't feel like you got to be lonely because you're single or solo. Now this is called the theory of greener grass. First of all, you cannot be single and married or coupled at the same time. You can't be. Extramarital affairs destroy the intimacy that you got into your relationship with. When I say extramarital, maybe I should say extra relational. The lower consciousness, the carnal consciousness, would love to teach us that, oh yeah, promiscuity is fun. You see how many get those notches on your bedpost and stuff like that. Actually, what that leaves you with in the end is a deep loneliness. As a minister, I have counseled many, many people, and I very often watch them go through that phase of being promiscuous, and unfortunately, they wind up really, really hurting and really, really alone. So I encourage you, it's not necessary to go that route. The truth is, whether we are single, whether we are married, whether we have children or don't have children, we are always missing something. We are always losing something. But every end is a new beginning. You might remember the song, Are You Lonely Tonight? Probably not, because that was like 60 some odd years ago, but it was Elvis, and a beautiful song, so you can go to YouTube and look it up. But it said, are you lonely tonight? Do you miss me tonight? Are you sorry we drifted apart? Yeah. Does your memory stray to bright summer days when I kissed you and called you sweetheart? Something like that. Sometimes that's a lovely song, maybe an experience. More often, it's what became called as a booty call. Just think about that. Being alone is not synonymous with being lonely. And loneliness totally can be completely overcome. Our perception of loneliness can affect our physical, mental, and emotional health because humans are social beings. We like to be around people, and we like to have our pack or our tribe. We are animals, and so we're pack animals. We like to have our tribe. And yet I wonder, I always wondered how those other, like in they show the lions, and they'd have the head lion, he'd fight with everyone to be the king of the lions, and he got all the female lions to himself. Well, that meant there were a lot of solo lions. And of course, if there's only one king, that'd be a lot of solo lionesses as well. So when you get married, you lose your singlehood. When you're single, you lose couplehood. But ultimately, you make your own happiness and your own world. You want to realize what you can do. You're not alone. Accept it there's nobody in your room, there's nobody in your house, there's nobody calling you or, whatever. Spiritually, we're never alone. We are one with each other and one with the divine, and that is inseparable. So and things can change really quickly. You can be feeling like you're at the bottom of the barrel, and what is it they say? Nobody loves me, everybody hates me, I'm going to go eat worms. Well, before you start eating worms, it only takes a phone call to find out that, you can have some company after all. A good friendship of mine developed one night because I was trying to figure out what I was going to do about supper, and I had you say a friend. I have a friend that I was in a writing group with, and still am if I ever get back with the group, but my fault, not theirs. Anyway, so she had posted on Facebook. Normally we would see each other at the writing group, and sometimes we'd go out, as a group afterwards. But one day she posted, anybody feel like going out to dinner tonight? And I answered, I do. Where do you want to go? And we had a most wonderful evening. We talked for hours. I think they were going to kick us out of the place if we didn't leave on our own. And you know what? As I recall, it was a cold night, and it might have been a February night. In any event, that's when our friendship really started to blossom. It was just a chance. She wanted to have dinner with someone, and I'm someone. You are in charge of your own loneliness. If you think you're having a bad day or whatever, ask your friends. Anybody want to get a bite to eat? Anybody want to watch a movie? The restrictions are starting to loosen up, and the first thing you say to your friend, you vaxxed? I'm vaxxed. You boosted? I'm boosted. Let's have some fun. Let's watch a movie. Let's go to the movies. Theaters are open. So I want to talk about a few different types of loneliness, so you can start to get a grasp that if you identify the type of loneliness you have, then you can figure out how to deal with it. That's why if you go to the doctor, they'll get you, what are all your symptoms? So this is kind of like getting symptoms of loneliness. First of all, one of the types of loneliness is social. And it's loneliness which is experienced as loneliness within a relationship. If you don't have a good relationship, it's like having no relationship. So you can be in that relationship, but you're lonely. You have nothing in common. You don't talk. They said the average husband and wife, as far as general conversation goes, only talk to each other like 2 to 3 minutes a day. They might talk, they might have, those conversations about the kids, about what you need at the grocery store, who's doing the laundry, stuff like that, just, mundane daily task things. But as far as actual conversation, it's very minimal to what they should have. So loneliness, you have loneliness which is in a relationship, and loneliness out, which is experienced as loneliness due to the absence of meaningful relationships. Now, here's where those empty kind of, you'll go out with someone or do something with someone you have nothing in common with. You just don't want to be lonely, and it's just fruitless. Relationships, friendships, couplehood, whatever, need to be meaningful. You need to have something in common, something you like. Sit down if you're not sitting down. But I got to tell you something. I was married twice, once for 17 years and once for 3 years. I learn faster as I go along. But I was not friends with either one of them. We had this chemistry thing, this romance thing, but as far as any substance, Then there is situational loneliness. Situational loneliness is loneliness due to circumstances. If the situation changes, the loneliness disappeared. That's what I was talking about with my friend and I going to dinner. That loneliness was gone. And when I came home, I wasn't even lonely because I was basking in what a wonderful evening we'd had, what we'd talked about, and how good it was. That's the kind of thing you want, something you can count on. Now, I know that, you see, you would call what we're dealing with the pandemic situational. There's circumstances that keep us from being together. But that limitation, again, is another form of illusion. Even if you write letters, even if you call on the phone, even if you video chat, there are so many ways we can connect. It's really not an excuse. And here's another thing. We become complacent. I am totally guilty of this. By the end of the day, day's winding down, I start to kind of wind down along with it, and I'll think to myself, and I'm going to say it because it's the one person I think about calling often, and I don't. I gotta call Helen. I haven't talked to Helen in a while, and she's a very close and dear friend. Then I'll say, well, it's getting late, and I'm getting ready for bed, and then there will be those times when you do connect, and you have this great conversation. I had one the other night that was a total accident. I had been messaging back and forth with my friend Lynn, who's in Oklahoma. Yeah. No. Nebraska? No. Grove, Oklahoma. She's from Oklahoma. And we were messaging back and forth, and so I was just settling in, and all of a sudden my portal went off. And I'm like, oh, somebody's calling. So I took off the shield and I turned on the camera and the voice, and it was Lynn. And she said, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that. I was trying to do something else. And I said, great, it's so good to see your face. And we talked for probably an hour. There's no reason to be lonely. There's another thing. What if there's nobody around? What kind of company are you keeping? What kind of friend are you to you? Right? Be your own best friend. Remember yesterday, if not, go back to the first video and look at the Valentine's suggestions for how to love and pamper yourself on Valentine's Day or anytime. Then this is called intrapsychic loneliness. It refers to a sense of alienation from yourself, often due to a clear sense of identity. That's what I was just talking about. Do you really know yourself? Do you pay attention to what you like? Or have you been putting yourself on the back burner or so busy hunting for someone to be in a relationship with that you forgot about what you even liked? When I was in relationships, I was so happy to be in the relationship. I was like, whatever you want. Where do you want to go? Do you want to go I want to go to the car races. Oh, yes. Not my favorite idea. Not that I've never, I like it once in a while, but it's loud and it's smoky and smelly. But, in a relationship, you got to do what you want too. And if that's not happening, why not? Because you're going to be lonely even in that relationship until you learn to have your inner value and take care of yourself and do things for yourself. The worst one is called spiritual loneliness, and that's where you feel separated from God. Now, you can say, oh, I'm not a religious person. I'm not a spiritual person. Don't give me that stuff. But each one of us, in the depth of our being, want to be connected with something greater. We want to know there is something greater than what we're experiencing in the world, what we're, and that these experiences of feeling separate from God are very depressing. And a lot of times they are called the dark night of the soul. And when a dark night of the soul happens, we very often, we slide into it. We don't realize it's happening until one day we become aware that we're just, our life force is drained, our zest, our zeal, our enthusiasm for life is not there. All we look around and all we see is the bad stuff. And very often you need help with, some of these you do need help with. Some of them you're not able, and that's when a time when, you know what, if you're lonely, if you're so lonely you can't find a way out and you can't find any way to help yourself, that's the time when you would want to call a counselor. You can get counseling on a sliding, what do they call that? Sliding fee basis, right on your phone. Just look for, I don't know what they call it, virtual counselors. You can, and I think some insurance companies also help you out with that. So you've got someone at your fingertips 24 hours a day, someone you can talk to if you need it. And if you make, I think we have a better chance, more tools to be able to cope with any of these types of loneliness, if we do establish a relationship with ourselves and a regular prayer time, prayer, meditation, inspiration, whatever you want to call it, what works for you, a time that brings peace and harmony and connection to something greater to you. Because ultimately, we are never alone. I hope you enjoyed this evening's little visit, and I encourage you to turn and check in again tomorrow, because we're going to go through this until we're done. And you will be liberated from loneliness and successfully single. Have a great day. God bless.